welcome to Center Hice Productions. It is August 25th, 2023. Please hit the likes and subscribes below. It would be muchly appreciated. And this is, unfortunately, I have to do my NFL Pittsburgh Steelers channel through this Center Hice Productions for the time being. Okay, so if you could tell everybody, word of mouth goes a long way so we can grow the channel. So this is to review last night's game against the Atlanta Falcons. And there are a lot of positives. Pittsburgh Steelers ended up winning this football game, 24-zip. What a game. All I can tell you is, I can tell you many things. I'm going to try to cut it shorter because I've tried this 4 or 5 times. Okay, Pickett comes in, and this has been the story right through preseason. We've won all three preseason games and have looked good. And it's our starts that are coming out good. We're coming out fast and furious. And the great thing is, because Khan and Tomlin have addressed the O line, that O line is looking exceptional. Great way to draft with getting that young gentleman who's a giant and nasty, totally Steeler uh, molding. Perfect guy for it. And then they built that line with several veterans from other squads that became free agents, and the gelling of it is looking great. And it showed in all three games. Kenny Pickett is getting the time to pass. He has the talent, natural talent to scan the field very quickly, and there's a lot of chemistry between Pickett and Pickens. We've seen that go towards the end of the season last year when they had no O line, and those two gelled well and gave us a good, half decent record for starting off the season so horribly. But he had no O line. Now we do. And we can see that gelling. And now Dante's coming into his own, Dante Johnson. And I think the big thing here is Pickens has to become number one, which I think he is. And I think Dante has now moved down just slightly to number two wide receiver, meaning, I think it's a better fit for Dante. And truthfully, with Dante's talent, if he can keep a hold of the ball, which he's showing he can, without all the added pressure of not having a line with plays being made too quickly. So I think he's a perfect number two because technically it gives you two number ones. And it's a beautiful mix down the field. So game starts off, and what a season the way this is going. Okay, the first set of plays, it almost happened so quickly, almost within 4 plays. I mean, you got a long bomb down to Dante Johnson, which was 30 some odd yards, and he was there was coverage on him. There were two players around him, and Pickett just fine needle, tooth and comb. It's just sifts that pass in right on the money, and great combination, great work together, just so cohesive. So that was beautiful. Then you had Harris finally this with an offensive line. Harris can do something now. He can show his talent because I think he's going to be one of the better running backs in the league now that he has an offensive line and has holes being built for him. While he gains much yardage, makes something out of nothing with the creation of a hole built by that line. So great yardage coming out of Harris, starting to show his tangibles now with that O line working. So with that coming, we had another long bomb down Kenny Pickett just managing the ball very well. Drops another long bomb, which was about 34 yards down the field, right before the end zone. And the smart, and that's what I'm saying about Pickens, beautiful, intelligent, intelligence of knowing when to come up and stretch out for that pass, keeping his feet both in the field instead of going over the sideline. Too many players miss those plays and get a foot caught out. Plays no good. But he had the knowledge of presence of where his feet were, made the play. Beautiful play. And this is what I'm talking about, the cohesiveness and the magic of chemistry between Pickett and Pickett. This looked beautiful. So then not long after that, you're down to about the 1 yard line and easy. The offensive line just does a wonderful job of clearing a massive hole for Harris to run through, and he does. 1 yard touchdown, boom. Boswell gets the extra point. Bang. We've got the ball rolling again with some beautiful, beautiful magic coming out of that Austin the third. He makes something out of nothing. When you watch this game and the highlights, I know our defense played so awesomely that we kept them at short fielding. They had a short field all a lot, the Falcons. So nice punt from their kicker ends up going to somewhere around the 50-yard line. And then I'm not saying this all in order, matter of factly. I'm just saying these are the highlights that stood out. And you had Austin the third. You take the return, and you're at the 50 some odd yard line, and he takes that up to the 30 within the opponent's end, and that was just a massive explosion of his speed, seeing the field the way he needs to see it, and these guys just couldn't keep up with him, and he gains that much yardage to get us in scoring position again. Then you got Kenny Pickett going to his magic again, and we see McFarland getting a nice pass and running the ball well, and from there we get 8 yards out after so many players are involved in it, in the passing and the running, and we've got that rushing game going now, and this is what the Steelers have been missing for about the last 4 years. And so you look at the stats in this game, and as a previous coach myself in football, it is so important to have the ball control for your team the majority of the time. You wear down that defense, and this is shown in all three games. Tonight, we had that ball for over 33 minutes and some odd seconds, and this has been transpiring all 3 weeks. That is perfect ball possession management by the coaching staff. Wonderful job. Wonderful job by the players on the field for Kenny Pickett to balance that out, to keep the plays going and so that you're gaining the yardage you need and keeping the offense's defense on the field too long. And that's beautiful. That's what you want to do. So done nicely. Anyway, so getting back to the game, we're 8 yards out, and what a play for again that line making a hole for Warren this time, and that's showing a great sign for a 1-2 punch with Harris and Warren, and he makes that 8-yard run into the end zone, and you could see that could have very easily been like 1 yard out easily, and needed another play. But he gets with the extra effort to stretch out, knowing his presence and making that drive, he gets the touchdown. And this is showing to be big, big positives for the Steelers. What more can you say? And Boswell comes in again and another one in, and then you have later in the game, in this half, still you have McFarland, same thing. Beautiful running. This is your third, another running back. And what talent, the speed these guys got. McFarland's speed, just so explosive. So you got a nice 1, 2, 3 punch on that running game. And then you look at the stats, and, so he gets the third touchdown. Boswell gets the point behind it. And then, we kept the ball on the field again. And Boswell gets a field goal a couple times, and that's normal business for Boswell. He's such a great kicker, and that was just beautiful. Great possession management by that young kid Pickett. And if you don't think he's going to be something, this kid is making decisions on the fly, and he's got a lot of mobility. He knows when to run the ball himself. He spots his targets quickly. Even I've seen a couple plays there where, for the most part, our O line was doing good, but I've seen a couple plays where he's just about to get tagged by that defense coming in at him. And he released the ball so quickly, making a play, and being able to use Harris in the passing game as well. Just beautiful. This team is explosive. And then you got Fairmouth, who, as a tight end, you know, we've already seen last year and the year before the talent coming to this guy. And he's just getting better and better as time comes. And to have a tight end that can block, this is showing some great signs for the future. So he's just gelling and uh, expanding on his capabilities. We're seeing more and more of the progression of the young talent and doing such a fine job of being that extra man to block alongside to give Kenny Pickett that protection. What a wonderful job. And, he had great plays in the game as well, great catches. Just the team is gelling nicely. So we have, a well balanced offense now. well-oiled machine. We have a fixed O line, which what a wonderful job by Khan to do. It was much over needed. Instead of having, they say that it's not a rebuild. I would beg to differ a little bit there because it's almost like a partial rebuild. This team, I mean, I usually have no problem with the names on the field. It has changed so drastically within one season. I'm blown away. Like your linebacker group, just a different group of guys. And then to get Helvig, this kid on, I believe that was our second draft pick, and that being a nose tackle. And he's just, what a great leader behind Watt. Who better to learn from? But yet he's got a smaller frame. However, his technique, he gets to build on his technique of getting underneath guys. And again, being so effective in the game and making his presence felt. You had Robinson coming through. Just looks wonderful. There's another young kid that, and Robinson picked up the fumble. Just veteran presence, knowing, the hits on the players that they're making. They're getting that punching out the ball. And that's so effective by your defense to make sure so many teams don't do it. But I noticed the Steelers have been very effective with that over the years under Cowher and Tom. And it's a thing that you have to keep the presence of knowledge of knowing to use that because a lot of guys don't carry the ball and protect it well. And so the punch out, and there you got Robinson taking it. And then, we had that a young fellow again. I don't. This is one young fellow. He stripped the ball, and I don't remember this kid's name. I have to look it up. That's how much the lineup has changed in Pittsburgh. But the gelling of the veterans that they've picked up in free agency and the talent that they're drafting, it's all coming together. And people can say, "Oh, Kenny Pickett's got small hands." Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't care damn about the size of their hands. It's called the brain cell. The IQ is what counts. And this kid's got the IQ of scanning the field, knowing when to run, finding his open man, because now we have the O line doing their job and creating openings and giving him time to do what he's got to do. And he's doing it quickly. He's making decisions very fast. And now you can see why, for him and some of the young receivers wanting Matt Canada to stay. Now you're seeing that there's a mix there, and they seem to be gelling well together. This might be the year now that you can see Matt Canada's offensive coordination show what his capabilities are as a coordinator. So maybe he'll get a better pick of the straw this time, with a better team in front of him. But overall, you look at, like I say, between the offensive line repair, the running game coming together, and you look at the numbers. You look on paper, and the Falcons threw the ball. Their passing yardage blew us out of the water, but it shows you the difference in intelligence because even though they did so, Kenny Pickett, with his numbers being like maybe half or under half of what the Falcons' passing game was, he made his passes count. So very deceiving when you look at the passing yardage because it's what cashes in, and Pickett was cashing in. And that's been something I've seen in all three of these games. All three of these games, it's been the same story we've been out past, but Pickett is making the intelligent plays. So that's a bonus for us, and the kids are coming through on the wide receivers. There's a cohesiveness and a chemistry being built with this young core. So great signs there. Our linebackers, last week we were seeing our secondary, and we were wondering, with some of the linebackers, is this an area of weakness? A bit, not really weakness, but they didn't shine as much. And you don't always have to shine because last week our secondary shined a little more. This week it was our linebackers and defensive line that shone a bit more on that defensive end. So I think if we can just have the cohesiveness of all of that working together like an oiled machine, we're now looking at a team that resembles what Steelers football is all about. It's always been about smash mouth football, defense shutting down, and that's why I say my saying is the curtain closes on you, and we've had an okay defense the last few years, but not up to the standards it was, and now it looks like we're moving back up. So I kind of do look at this as a partial rebuild. lot of people might say it's a retool. I don't know about that. You look at the components on that lineup, it's been changed that drastically that I really look at it as one of the fastest rebuilds I've ever seen in my life. And what a amazing job between Covert getting some picks there before he left that affected us, and then Khan coming right in there and doing the job of what we really needed to do to take the next step, especially in that AFC North, which is just such a shame that a team or two misses the playoffs because that division, I almost wish the NFL would juggle the teams a bit because it's a shame to see one or two of those teams miss. This year, I can honestly see three teams come out of that division and make the playoffs. One of them being the Steelers, and we know who the front runners, in my opinion, are the Bengals and the Browns. And I don't think the Browns people are focusing on Deshaun Watson. If he goes back to the caliber, remember he missed 4 or 5 games at the beginning of last season. You're really going to see a showdown with the three quarterbacks now, with Burrows, Deshaun Watson, and Pickett. Who's going to be above whom? Because you've got such talent, and to me, Watson's always been ahead of the rest of the NFL until he ran into trouble with his legal um, issues. So, can he return to vintage Watson after missing all that time? That'll be the question mark. Because if he does, to me, Cleveland's going to take that division. If he doesn't, it's going to be a battle, but he's still got the talent. So you're going to have a three-way juggling, and Burrows can easily be the top guy in that. But I do think Pickett is right in there now with what he's shown so quickly, gelling in with the changes and the coaches and the GM realizing what needed to be repaired in Steelerland. And honestly, don't even be. I mean, I know Vegas is betting against the Steelers. I say anybody in the betting game, I don't recommend it. But anybody in the betting game, if you're a gambler, you better bet on the Steelers because I'm going to tell you a little something. All those 4 teams are talented. Yes, everybody's kind of got the Steelers out on the outside, and the Ravens making it, being one of the top 3. Ravens always have a good squad. There's no question about it. But I'm sorry to say, as much talent as Jackson has, his talent is superbly in his legs. If you can contain Jackson, you shut him down, and the Steelers have been able to do that since he's been in the league, and they've shown. This is why they know how to contain him. And if the rest of the teams clue into that, Jackson is very one-dimensional. His arm is not all that. So he is the weakest quarterback out of the 4, which to me, I say against what Vegas says it's going to be. If there's a team that's going to miss in the AFC North, it's going to be the Ravens, as good as they are, because I think they got to look at the draft board again and find themselves a quarterback that has an arm and use Jackson as a running back. He's got more talent with his legs. Sorry, I don't think Jackson is a two-tone punch guy. It's not in his arm. He doesn't even set right. So, with that being said, I honestly think there's a good possibility this season we could see 3 teams from the AFC North. And horrendous job, great job that this management team has done with drafting and the repair job. With this team has had quite the overhaul in such a short period of time. I'm sure Ben is sitting there saying, "Why couldn't you have given me an offensive line like that before I left?" Unfortunately, yes, it would have made Ben look a lot better, but however, Ben's legs were toast at that point. He was very stationary. And we've seen, Chervinsky come in, and Chervinsky's a good veteran and he seemed to get going. And it seems, I see that in his game, that it seems to take him time to heat up as his rotations of plays go through. But he does get going, and he uses his speed. He knows how to run the ball, and he's getting better. He's just got to manage better. I think he sometimes takes too much time making a decision. However, it's getting better. It just takes him time to heat up. And then Rudolph, who looked better probably than Trubinsky the previous week, you don't see as much. And maybe it's because he didn't have as much time on the field. But then they just work on keeping possession and running the clock. And they did a fine job of it. So great jobs. And I say, Steelers Nation, Get behind your team because this team, if it's not this season, I'd be shocked. Um, I'm actually expecting Vegas to be very wrong on their projection. When I see Ryan Clark uh, um, and Steve, I forget Steve's last name. Terrible. I follow him quite closely, and when I see the comments behind them, and then the same thing with a couple of ex Steelers, they're all behind this unit, the progression, and Ryan Clark's usually that guy that is very honest. He's behind his team, but he's going to tell you the truth and the likes and the dislikes. So you might dislike what he says, but he's honest. He gives you an honest, the good and the bad, and he is really behind this squad, 100%. And that to me speaks volumes. I feel the same way he does. From coaching and playing at a much lower level. However, having the football background, I see the upside of this. The upswing of this team is going to be the sky is the limit. They can only go up, and they're going to go up. And I say, as this team, if they can keep this team together in the next 2 years, we could have one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL. Yeah, we just got to keep the progression going forward. So go Steelers Nation, go get behind your team. This is a pump time. I seen the downtime last year where I kind of backed off following as close because I wasn't impressed. I knew this building situation was going to take a while. Well, they're going faster than I thought they could. So I'm right back in there gung ho. And I wanted to start my channel football wise last season, and I didn't because I didn't like what I seen, and I needed the experience of just getting it for taping for hockey. But this season has got me so excited. I had to put my football underneath my hockey channel for the time being. So let's get behind it. Please hit the likes and the subscribes. We'd muchly appreciate it. Get the word of mouth out there. Get people to follow. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think about everything that's being said and the hype. And I don't think it's just hype. I think you got to really take a look at what's going on, what went on. It's one thing for it to be one exhibition game, but for them to win 3 exhibition games against half decent quality squads, especially the Bills last week, I think that speaks volumes. So get behind the Steelers Nation and go ahead, and we can finally say the steel curtain is closing because that's what Steeler football is. That mean, smash you in the face type of football. Well, until the next episode when the season begins, God bless you. We'll catch you in the next episode.